Welcome to the Intercourse Show. I'm your host, Mr. B. Today we have a very exciting show for you. Of course, we're trying to do more live shows to make sure we mix it up a little bit. And also, I want the show to be a bit more interactive so we can also connect with some of our viewers. Anyways, we're analyzing Kevin Samuels' interview with a woman who's in her 40s, but she acknowledges that she's been a bit misguided in her dating decisions in the past. And so Kevin attempts to give her some real life advice to hopefully get her on track. So let's go ahead and jump in and watch that.
Okay, what do you got for me?
Their experience with a lot of men not wanting to date, not wanting to spend money. And for a long time, I was in that mindset and of that mindset. And I believe that was the reason why that's what I kept attracting. But I'm a big believer in law of attraction and your mindset and what you believe. And I started telling myself, that I did want to attract men with more money.
Okay,
And
how old are you?
weird.
First off, how old are you?
I'm 40.
Okay, have you ever been married?
Yes, briefly.
Any children?
No, actually.
Okay, I'm just trying to know who I'm talking to. Because you just kind of started talking. You didn't say, hi, my name is Karen. I'm from here. You just, blah. I mean.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
I mean, I didn't even know where you were going with it. So.
But yeah.
So, are you dating?
Yeah, no, but yeah. I am. Yeah, I am. Lately, I am.
Okay.
Okay, I'm already going to tell you. I'm going to jump in here real quick. Kevin is about to have a field day with this lady. She is... she's already missed the opportunity to make a good first impression, is what I'm saying, from what we can hear. She jumped into the conversation, didn't necessarily introduce herself, and just started expressing her frustration with the men. And it sounded like she was trying to say there is no good men out there because the men are too cheap. They're not trying to spend no money. They're not trying to do nothing. And she thought that maybe coming on this platform will be a good environment for her to just kind of dump all of this frustration she's had in her dating experience. And clearly Kevin don't have the tolerance for it. You could tell by his facial expression he's unimpressed. All right, let's continue.
And are you, so the questions were,
I just think that
so let me ask the questions, because are you getting men spending what you think they should be spending, less or not at all?
I would say, I think that they're spending what they should be spending. I think so.
Okay. So you should have dope. So you should be pretty happy.
I mean, it's not like, yeah, I am. I actually really can't complain. But I'll say this also, though, like lately I'm trying to be more open-minded to the men that, that I do date.
Why? What do you mean open-minded?
In terms of, just silly stuff in the past,
No, I don't.
in your youth, you might have in your youth, you might have a mindset of like, well, I don't know if I like him and he's not my type, but just being more open-minded and expanding your options and not just only going off of looks, because you could really miss out on some,
okay, all right.
really
So
nice.
You're not making any. Okay, you're just kind of talking, and that's okay. But I don't know you, and I don't even know. So let's try to make more sense for the audience. What part of the country are you in? North, east, south, or west?
I'm in the. I really don't want to say, Kevin.
Look, woman, don't call my show and tell me you don't even want to tell me what freaking region.
I'm in the east. I'm in the east. I'm sorry.
I mean, really, what is wrong?
You're right. I'm in the East.
Oh,
No, I'm in the East. I don't want to be disagreeable.
I mean, okay. So, I mean,
Too late.
if we're gonna make it make sense for the audience, and they should pay attention to what you're saying, you gotta tell something about yourself. You're 40 years old. You've been married briefly with no kids, and you said you're trying to make your options be more open with your options. So you had really high standards or something.
I'm not even necessarily that. I mean, just kind of stuck in my own ways and
Meaning what? Okay.
just kind
So what would you rank yourself on a
just
scale
meaning
from?
that
What would you rank
I
yourself on a
think
scale from?
I would go for
What would you rank yourself on a scale from 1 to 10, and you can't use 7?
I would probably say 6.
All right. So you were stuck in your ways at 6?
Yes, yes. Like I said, you have to live and learn. You do. You have to live and learn.
All right. So when you were a young girl, did you think you would be where you are at 40 years old?
No, actually, I never did. No.
Did you want children?
I did, but I wanted children with a husband.
Mm. But you had a husband.
I did, but he wasn't necessarily the right choice. He wasn't necessarily the right choice. Yeah.
What age were you guys married?
I know he around 20 late 20s. Yeah, late 20s.
Around the late 20s. All right. Well, you're not really trying to have a conversation. You're really not trying to have a conversation. So
no, I am trying to have a conversation.
Okay, so if you were married around your late 20s.
I was 27.
Okay. Again, I don't know what you ladies, I mean, it's like, I got news for all you. I need to keep my privacy. Don't call into a public show. No one's going to come back and trace you down over the interwebs to figure out. I mean, I'm not trying to be rude, but none of y'all are that damn important. I mean, seriously, that's not trying to be rude.
No, I understand.
So at 27, you got married, and you guys are married for how long?
That. Oh, wow. Not even 5 years, like maybe 4 years.
Okay. So the natural question is, why, if you married him and you wanted kids, you know, unless there was medical difficulties, why didn't y'all have kids? Because when a woman gets to be 40 years old and saying some of the things you're saying, it's kind of like, what do you mean? Reducing, being more open and this and that. And none of this is making any sense.
You know, honestly, no, you're right. And listen, you know, I definitely can admit that I've made a lot of mistakes, you know, in my younger years. And, you know, I just made a lot of bad choices. But now, you know, in hindsight, now that I'm older, you know, I guess you can say I see the error in a lot of my ways.
Okay, so what's the outcome you want to achieve now?
I mean, I still, you know, desire to meet someone, a good guy.
I need to get on into it. I got other callers. Do you want to get married?
Yes, I do.
All right. Well, I will tell you, ma'am. It's kind of hard to talk to you. And I get I get it. You said
why?
I don't know, because it's like I just asked you basic questions, and it's kind of like on one you're trying to hide stuff and not tell stuff, and when you talk to people, it's kind of like, how do you expect to get to meet anybody, get to know anybody, if you're going to have up all these walls and barriers? And at 40 years old, you really should be pretty much, it is what it is, and this is what I want, and not trying to hide what region of the world you're in. At 40, it should be, I'm this, and this is what it is, and this is what I'm looking for. At 40, you should be giving direction to younger women, instead of sounding kind of like, right. Well, you know, I'm still trying to figure it out. And well, you know, that's how it should be at 40. So, I mean,
No,
have you ever
you're
had
you're
any
exactly
therapy?
right. Yeah. No,
Well,
I never had.
no.
I read a lot of books though.
Huh? You do
I
what?
said I read a lot of
No,
self-help books
no, no,
though.
no, ma'am. You
Self-help.
therapy would be really advisable.
I'm so sorry. I apologize. Look at Kevin Samuels' face in this. Rest in peace to the Godfather, man. This guy was entertaining to say the least, but also very insightful and very, very, very intuitive. He hit it on the head. This lady sounds a little young-minded. She sounds like she's not, mature. She's still trying to figure it out. Kind of, I don't want to say ditzy, but she sounds a little aloof, if is the word, where she's not clear. And I think it's just hard for her to communicate. Now, I do apologize. It seems like the sound quality for her, there's some kickback in this interview, but from what I'm gauging, I don't know her personally to say if this is true, but the way she came across, the impression that she's giving is that maybe she's not as mature as you would expect a 40-year-old woman to be. But she came in highly critical of the men that she's dating. I don't know if she has the self-awareness that maybe she's not as attractive in terms of appeal to some of those men. But you can tell Kevin already is like put off by her. Her demeanor, her style of communication does not seem to rub him well. So let's continue.
You've been in charge of this
Okay.
for too long. And basically you think so what you're basically saying is I am good enough at this to pick the right books, to give me the right information, to make the better choices for my outcome. And the experience of your life tells you different.
That's deep. I hear you. I do.
All right.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
So there you have it. That was Kevin Samuels. He cut the conversation short. Clearly, he's not that impressed with, what this young lady had to say. Young 40-year-old woman had to say. She was not very transparent. She didn't want to really disclose what part of the country she was calling from. It's almost like it's true, the hypocrisy in the whole thing. You're calling into a public dating show and you're not willing to disclose certain information about yourself. That's not to say you go in and you give your full government so everyone can find you, but you have to understand that the guy's going to ask you a few questions if you're calling in seeking his advice on your love life. So if he says, well, what part of the country are you from? Maybe that's a relevant question in terms of determining where you're trying to find your perfect fit, right? If you're in a part of the country, maybe that's not as cultured and you want a bit more diversity, he might advise that you move to another area that does have that culture that you're seeking, right? So him at least understanding what part of the country you're from would be one of the reasons why he can determine that. But also it's like, what is your dating pool? There's demographics, right? So if you're, living in Alaska and you're trying to find more people that look like yourself, this pigmentation, you probably got a limited option, right? So maybe you want to marry a certain type of man that may not be found in Alaska. So that's a relevant question. But also things like, how are you getting any therapy? These are things that are useful because sometimes we don't know how we're being perceived by the rooms that we step into. So if we think we're good in the ways that we're processing information, sometimes you do need an outside voice to observe and then share the input with no bias, but just to give you some information that you may not have considered. And I think that's what he's saying. She said, I do a lot of self-help books. His question is, how do you know which self-help books you need? You know what I mean? A self-help book is great, but did you get the right one? Because the self-help you may think you need may not be the self-help that everyone else, the men that you're trying to talk to, thinks you need. So that's why it's good to get some outside feedback, some mentors, some people who that you trust their voice to speak into your life about what you got going on. Right? Again, I'm not in the business of bashing people. I think this show is meant to be constructive. So this is not an attack on this young lady. I'm sure she's, a beautiful person, inside and out. But sometimes we don't know what we don't know, right? And again, you only get one time to make a first impression. And, you may not know how you're coming across, but you may not come across the way you want to come across. And that's okay. I mean, I think if she has an open mind, maybe the advice he gave her might have helped. But, if she's not as open-minded, then I'm sure she probably, tossed out the advice. Anyways, my advice to the young ladies watching this is, I guess, always be open-minded to feedback, constructive criticism. And that happens on both sides, both men and women. It's always good to have a group of people that you trust will be honest with you and will speak life into you. So in those moments, welcome the feedback, provided it's being done constructively and in love. And make the changes when you can. The Bible tells us all to renew our minds, so that we can constantly grow and expand our thinking on certain things so that we can hopefully come to a different conclusion and make different decisions and formulate different habits. That doesn't happen until you change the root cause of the problem, which is how we think about something, which is how we're perceiving something. So I think that's what Kevin's whole job is to help people think about things differently than they had traditionally in the past. So that's all I got on that particular topic. It was a brief little interview that he had with her, but I did want to share it with you guys. I thought it was entertaining, and I thought there's some lessons that could be extracted from it. So I thank you for joining me, Mr. B, on this In the Core show. If you're not already connected, please like and subscribe. Stay connected to the show so we can continue to share more and more interviews and more feedback on a number of different topics. And also we want to hear your views, your point of view, and, your perspective on certain topics. If I got it wrong, feel free to weigh in. Maybe he got it wrong. If you guys feel like there was maybe a perspective we didn't consider or something that should be highlighted, definitely weigh in. We encourage the feedback. And I thank you guys again for sharing your time with me. So that being said, I thank you. And I wish you guys all a good night until we speak again. God bless.